All right, Wednesday. I feel like this is like, I don't know. So this just a little behind the curtain. This is my fourth take. So I am struggling today. Struggling. That is, we're on the struggle bus, but it's all right. It's all right. We'll get it right. Um, Hope everyone's having a great Wednesday. And yeah, October 7th. So, warm up set number 2 is here. If you are in my parallel room, Danny, focus right now. Stop playing. I'm guessing that's what's happening. Um, Marco, get him straight. Yeah. So, anyway, if you're in pod 5, no, pod 1, make sure you answer 4 and 5. If this is the virtual, and you're in the virtual room, don't worry about numbers 4 and 5. We went over this in the Zoom meeting. So if you missed the Zoom meeting, then you need to watch the second video. There are 2 videos. 2. This is the first one. This is going over notes. The second one's going to go over the assignment. It's very important, that second one. So depending if you're in, well, don't worry about that. This is why this is my fourth take. My focus level is crap. It's so low. So it's all right. I still have the information here. So here we go. All right. So we're into assignment number 6. Assignment number 6, more money than God. So if you remember, we went over monopolies and trusts, and with that, we talked about how it was one company owning everything. And in this case, it's more than just one company. It's going to be almost just individuals owning companies by themselves, which isn't even the case today. Jeff Bezos owns Amazon, but he still has bits and pieces of it that are given away to other people. If he owned all of Amazon, he'd be worth a lot more than what he's worth now. But that's fortunately, that's not how it works. We corrected this mistake. So here's a couple pictures. This is known as the Gilded Age, and Mark Twain said that these gentlemen had more money than God, and we'll get into what he actually meant. So, our captains of industry. Is my camera in the way? Oh no. Was it in the way here? No, I guess we're okay. All right. The captains of industry. So, there are 6 in general. We talked about one already, Thomas Edison. And the other 5 we're gonna look at a little more in depth. Ford we'll look at another day, and we'll look at the 4 today. Andrew Carnegie, Cornelius Vanderbilt, Rockefeller, and J.P. Morgan. So those are our 4 that we're going to look at. So the way that these guys became wealthy is because businesses, before this time, business wasn't a huge thing. Most people were farmers. Factory life and urbanization that hadn't happened yet. Remember, urbanization is migration of people from rural communities to urban communities. So migration from farms to cities. That's urbanization. So that's happening during this late 19th century, early 20th century. So that's late 1800s, early 1900s time period. And we have these guys going to take advantage of this, this is unknown territory. Like factory life was not really a thing. There was limited factory workers, and it was always during the day, and they weren't sure, and no one's a millionaire. Everyone's poor. Like, we all have to figure it out. Yeah, there's lawyers and people that are making some money, but there's no extremely wealthy millionaires yet. So these people are gonna be the first to be the millionaires of our country, and even billionaires. And they were loved or hated, and some people loved them because, hey, they brought business, they brought opportunity, they brought factories, they brought jobs, they gave people a chance to make money, which, like we talked about before, if you lived on a farm, you were just trying to survive. Now, come at the turn of the century, turn of the 1900s, people have the opportunity to make a little bit of money. The Civil War, their parents would have fought, and they would have been part of it. And these are a generation of people who just kind of want to, hey, like, I want to be my own person. I want to be able to help my family. We lived through Reconstruction. We lived through Civil War. I hear all the stories, but it's time for a little bit of a better quality of life. Some people hated them though. They hated these 4 people or these 6 people because they took advantage of a system and they destroyed anyone else in their path, whether they purchased their companies or didn't allow other people to make money or led to really poor factory conditions and people really didn't work in safe places. So, that comes the question. Were they captains of industry or were they robber barons? So that's going to be the big question, and we're going to be coming back to them because the project you're going to be doing. So this is something we're going to be coming back to. Were they good or were they bad? Good captain industry, bad robber baron. So let's look a little more in depth at these people. So our first one, Cornelius Vanderbilt, and Vanderbilt gets the nickname of Commodore. He originally owned steamships. He actually sells to both the North and the South during the Civil War, and he makes a lot of money. And during that time, he started investing in different type of transportation. So steamships was his first kind. He then kind of figures out, hey, I can make money on the railroads. And he wasn't so much that he wanted to own the railroads, he does, but he wanted to own what people were putting on them. So the way he makes his fortune is that he makes millions of dollars by basically becoming the first UPS or the FedEx or DHL. And he says, I don't want to make the refrigerator. I just want to ship it. I just want to be the one that, hey, you make it, but you got to be able to send it somewhere. And I want to be the one that does the delivering for you. So that's how Vanderbilt does it. And then he owns all the railroads. So you don't have a choice but to use his company to send your product. So whether it's light bulbs, or elevators, or refrigerators, you have to use his railroad. It's monopoly. He's only one. So no one else could use any other way or any other option. It was him. He does use some of the money for good, and he creates Vanderbilt University, which is still around today. He dies in 1877. Is that when he passed? 1877. So it's about 133 years since he's died, and the Vanderbilt University is still around, and people are still getting diplomas with his name on it. Vanderbilt's a well-known college, a prestigious university, one of the best ones in the South. So, you're looking at a college that has been around a long time, and he still has his name on the building. It's never going to go away. So that's pretty cool. I think it's pretty cool. All right, on to our second guy, John D. Rockefeller. Now this guy, he's the one. He's the one that's going to make the most money. He gets into the oil industry. He becomes what is known as a tycoon. A tycoon is someone that takes advantage of the business situation. He is the best at it. He's the most ruthless. He is going to be the one that, hey, like, if you want oil, you have to go through Rockefeller. And he had a tough life growing up. His dad was kind of a snake oil salesman, which means that like he went town to town. His father did, selling this miracle cure that if you drink this like potion, you'll never get sick or cure disease. Do you think it did? So his dad was kind of a swindler, kind of a businessman, but fake. He made money, but his dad was never home. So Rockefeller had to like learn for himself, and that's kind of a recurring theme with these businessmen, these captains of industry, or these robber barons, is that they kind of were not coming from wealthy backgrounds. They were not people that, hey, like my family were all lawyers and doctors and brain surgeons and astronauts. It would have been interesting to be an astronaut and brain surgeon in 1900, but you get the idea that they're coming from farming families or a snake oil salesman dad. So for Rockefeller, he started working at about your age, at 13, 14 years old, and never stopped working. He never had like a traditional education. He didn't like go to college. He did some boarding school stuff, but he got involved in the business industry and kind of fell into oil. And for him, He ends up owning every Royal Oil refinery in North America. And means that he bought every single competitor he had. There wasn't a single oil competitor in North America. So again, he is a monopoly. He owns it. And he becomes the first billionaire in American history. And in today's money, 2020 money, he would have been worth over $700 billion. And just for argument thing, I'm looking at what Jeff Bezos is worth, and he's worth 175 billion. So Bezos, which is insane buku dollars, the owner of Amazon, he's worth 175 billion, and Rockefeller is worth almost 3 times what he's worth, and that's not Rockefeller's company and Rockefeller Center in New York City, which is where the Christmas tree is. That's right here. Where that Christmas tree is. That is named after him. 30 Rock, where NBC is. NBC, the National Broadcast Company, the peacock symbol, where Saturday Night Live is filmed, or any of the shows you watch on NBC. The Good Place, I know, just finished up last year. Superstore, I think, is another show that's on there. That might be terrible or great. I don't know. Looks weird. But that show is made in the building at Rockefeller Center. Like his family still lives in New York City. His great grandchildren. So you have the Rockefeller name still in American history, still happening today. So it takes us to Carnegie and Morgan. Carnegie, just like Rockefeller, very, very poor growing up. He lived in a cottage, a small cottage, grew up in a closet in Scotland. His family comes over when he's very young to America, and he kind of takes the same path that Rockefeller does, kind of gets involved in business at a young age, looks at this iron. He was in an iron company, and if you don't know about iron, there was steel is iron, just steel is like a refined iron. And both Carnegie and Rockefeller were in a similar area. Rockefeller was in Ohio. Carnegie was in Pittsburgh, not too far from each other. And Carnegie creates a steel competition, and much like Rockefeller, buys out all his competition. You learn from him. And Carnegie makes all this money. And the reason he went with steel is because all these things that we talked about, the inventions, the elevator, the light bulbs, the refrigeration, the railroads, all that required steel. So light bulbs are being put in factories. How do you build factories? You need steel. Elevators have to be steel. If you're building upwards, you need steel to build those buildings. So Carnegie was like, hey, I don't want to deal with these small things. I don't want to just send one little light bulb out. I want to send the product you need for the light bulb. Or the elevator. So that's how Carnegie went with the steel business. And he's gonna retire. And he made a lot of money. And when he retires, Carnegie devotes his life to helping the poor. That wasn't anything that was a new concept back then. It was a concept of which, hey, we talked about King George last year. You guys learned about King George in England, or you learned about John Adams and George Washington and Thomas Jefferson. Did we talk about how hey, there were wealthy plantation owners worth maybe millions of dollars, but hundreds of thousands of dollars, and those guys, did they give money to the poor? No, most of them owned enslaved people. I mean, John Adams is a lawyer in Boston, but the other guys, yes, they were wealthy plantation owners, but it wasn't their wealth was not compared to these guys, but also they had enough money that they could help people. And that wasn't what you did. There was no one ever did that. And Carnegie's going to be the first one to actually be a philanthropist. Philanthropy means you're helping people, wealthier is helping less fortunate. And he's going to build Carnegie Hall in New York City. Carnegie Hall is a music hall where lots of different today still used as not during the pandemic, but Carnegie Hall's concerts and stand-up comedians, and I think Kevin Hart was there not terribly long ago. So it's a big deal to go to Carnegie Hall. I think one of the award shows. I mean, the Oscars is done at Carnegie Hall. I think it's like still done today. Carnegie Mellon in Pittsburgh is one of the most prestigious universities in this country. Like, it's hard to get into as a Harvard or MIT. So, Carnegie's name's still around today, but this gospel of wealth that's up here, it's kind of like his idea of like, hey, I'm wealthy and I'm going to help the poor. And his family didn't get all of his money. He gave a lot of his money away. And the idea of hey, I'm fortunate, I have a lot of money, I'm going to spend it on helping others. So it's where JP Morgan comes in. I'm going to move my camera up. Whoop. I'm sorry about that. I apologize. So JP Morgan. So that's him down here, JP. And JP sees all this wealth, and he's like, well, they have to put the money somewhere. These guys have to have a place to put money. And he comes with the concept like banks were a thing, but he wants to be the bank. That, hey, if you want protection, you come to JP Morgan. And JP Morgan protected all the assets of most of the wealthy people in the country. He sold insurance. So, hey, you want to build a factory, purchase insurance. If something happens to that factory, I'll fix it. And he figures out this system of, charging the rich people for their money. And when he's at his highest net worth, he's worth as much as New York City is worth total at the time. He's worth more than New York City. So he could have bought every inch of New York City if he wanted at the time. He didn't. He ends up looking at Carnegie's company, and when Carnegie wants to retire, Carnegie sells his company to JP Morgan, and Morgan turns it into U.S. Steel. And you may know U.S. Steel because the logo U.S. Steel is the same logo as the Pittsburgh Steelers. And there was like 3 diamonds. So, and that was the Carnegie U.S. Steel, like that's in Pittsburgh, and that's why they're called the Steelers, because that's where the steel was made. I know, crazy. So if you're a football fan, or if you have someone in your family that watches football and a Steelers fan, you think Andrew Carnegie and JP Morgan, because that's where that name comes from, those people. JP Morgan's company is still around today. That's what Chase Bank is. It's called JP Morgan Chase Bank. And if your parents go to Chase Bank, they're going to JP Morgan's bank. So if you can see, like, these guys are still in American lore. They're still in America today. Yes, they've been gone for 100 years, or not quite 100 years in some cases, but over 100 years for Vanderbilt. And yet there's still people getting a diploma at Vanderbilt University with his name on it. Same with Carnegie at Carnegie Mellon. Morgan, people are still putting money into his bank. Rockefeller, people are going skating at Rockefeller Center in a few months, hopefully, right in front of the Christmas tree. So these guys, their names are still in American history. And when we talk about Henry Ford, I mean, you can't turn TV on not seeing a Ford commercial. So I have one more picture I want to show, and I'll focus on it. This is Andrew Carnegie, and this goes with his Gospel of Wealth. Holy crap, man, 18 and a half minutes. I'm going to say this quick. And he would give over $100 million to the public for libraries and such. And you can see he's giving it all over the country. And that's what this political cartoon is kind of saying. Like, hey. And obviously he's wearing that, like, Scottish kilt thing. I'll move my camera. Wearing that Scottish kilt thing. Which, I think it's like a field hockey skirt or something. But the Scottish people wear it. But yeah, like, he's from Scotland. And we're going to talk about immigration next class on Thursday, Wednesday, Friday. I'm so sorry that you had to sit through this because I've lost my mind. Okay, so that's it for notes. I will make the assignment video as short as possible because this is almost 20 minutes, which would be like the time it would take for you to do notes if we're in class. So not feeling terrible about it being 20 minutes, but you had to listen to me for 20 minutes and not be able to talk back to me. I'm sorry. So if you have any questions, let me know. Make sure you have these notes in place because in case you don't watch the assignment video, which if you don't, you're wrong. You need to watch it. You do have a quiz on Tuesday next week. So, and this is, you have assignments 4, 5, 6, and 7. You get 7 on Thursday. So those 4 assignments, that's the quiz. It's building a 15-question quiz with a 10-question notebook check. Quick notebook check, just make sure your notes are in order. It's going to be really simple. And then the quiz is 15 questions, multiple choice, just multiple choice. But that is on Tuesday, October the 13th. I knew that off the top of my head. All right, 20 minutes, 22 seconds. I'm turning it off. All right, any questions, get in touch with me. Watch the assignment video.